every single thing about it. I wish there was an entrepreneur society when I was at UGA. But I am a Bulldog through and through. I was also a Katie at Georgia. And I live in Atlanta now, and I'm the proud mom to 4 little ones. I have 3 little boys and a little girl we adopted from Africa about 7 years ago from Ethiopia. And she just kind of folded into our crazy, awesome family. And I have a husband who's a lawyer, and he's got the most incredibly beautiful projecting voice, and he's giving a presentation. So if you hear background, that's my amazing husband. I've been doing the like shh, and he's like talking louder. So you're going to hear us both. So you can hear a little bit about Allah and about me. But I think, the coolest part about these conversations that I always love when I'm talking with all of you is the sheer fact that we've got this many entrepreneurs in one group or on one call. And I don't want to say I know what you're thinking, but if you're an entrepreneur, you think in a certain way that I think is absolutely beautiful. It's kind of the idea that anything's possible. If you can think it, you can dream it, and you can bring it into this world. And I get the beauty now of being, kind of 20 years on the other side of my journey, and truly still in my journey. I think once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. But really being able to look back and say, man, I wish I would have known this sooner, or don't do this, or absolutely do this. And it's a lot more definite now, looking back, because hindsight's always easier than the first time around. But I will tell you that I was first day at Georgia, my parents are both hippies, long hair, still hippies, didn't go to college. They were like, artists, and they just would be in fields painting with a bottle of, Jack Daniels. And those parents were just passionate, but not really into school and formal jobs and briefcases and ties and all that stuff. So I was the oldest in my family, and I kind of was like, I think I'm supposed to go to college. And they're like, oh, whatever you want to do. I'm like, no, Mom, I'm going to college. It's what you do. So when I was at the first day at Georgia, I walked into the counselor's office and really asked them, what's a major that makes a lot of money? I just figured, I'm at college, I'm here to make a lot of money. Just tell me what it is and I'll do it. I was not following my family mantra of, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life, that my parents taught me. I aborted it because I was sure there was some quick path, not only to happiness, but it was definitely going to lead me to more money, which would be happiness. Got to learn later that's not the shortest distance. You might as well stick with what you love, and then the finances will come. But they told me to be MIS. I'm like, don't know what that is. Let's go for it. We all know now that's management information systems. It was an incredible major. That was my major. And I learned about business. I learned about, my first job was at Deloitte Consulting right out of school. And my job was to go into companies. I was literally a week out of school, kind of tied my hair in a bun to make myself look more presentable and professional, though I had no idea yet what I was doing. And got to sit with C-level executives at tables, review their business process, and basically tell them how they could do it better, how they could implement systems that would change their life. And it was incredible. I did that for about a year. And, as I was approached in my evaluation, basically the idea of, hey, Dana, we believe that, you could be one of our youngest women partners, and we believe in you. We're going to, help you climb this ladder that to most people would sound awesome. And for some reason, to me, it just didn't. It sounded like I was kind of going away from my heart and from what I thought I was supposed to be doing, which was fashion. I was the little girl that wallpapered all of my windows and doors and ceilings and closets with Vogue magazine growing up, and still do. And my mom, we didn't have a lot of money. So my mom got to make all of my own clothes, and I thought I had a stylist. My friends were like, I think you're poor. And I said, no, I think I have a personal stylist. So, about a year out of school, I decided, wait a second, I can't get this far away from my dream, and left Deloitte, very well-paying, wonderful company, career, to start my very first store. And now we have 40 plus locations throughout the nation. We have a beautiful e-com business. We have I have a nonprofit that I'm so proud of called Free Fabric, and we do free shopping sprees in safe houses throughout. We now build dream boutiques, which are completely free boutiques inside of these safe houses, so these girls don't have to leave, and we fill them with clothing, and there's no price tags. It's just, love and clothing them with the confidence that they can kind of take on what life's, dealt them. So I think I say all that to say that the journey was never that smooth. There's a lot of pieces that Sabrina and I will kind of talk through with you, but I think the key part is just to know that, it's, for me, it started with one little store. It starts with one little dream. It starts with taking one big chance of, am I going to leave something that seems so secure for something has no security at all? That's the number one question I get is, well, how did you know? How did you know? How did you know? And I didn't know. I still don't know. And I've been doing this for, 18 years, but I do know if I'm going to go down, this is how I want to go down. If I'm going to fail, I want to fail trying this. So, that's kind of the overview of who I am. I live in Atlanta. I have a lot of chickens. I love chickens. I live in the middle of Buckhead, and somehow they let us have chickens. And I love running, and I just started playing the guitar. I only know how to do a G. That's all I got. So I'm a continuous learner. I love learning new things. I'm always reading like 4 to 5 books at the same time. And I don't really apologize anymore for being kind of crazy. My company kind of calls me like, what's his name? That guy that he's the cartoon guy, and not Wile E. Coyote. It's the one that comes in the room and it's like a tornado and it just leaves dirt everywhere. Like that guy. That's who they call me. And I used to just say, why would you ever say that? Now I love that. I mean, a lot of the people, my mentors, any entrepreneur I know comes in, just goes crazy with a million ideas and then just kind of leaves the place. So that's me in a nutshell. Hopefully you guys are excited to chat about it.
Thank you so much, Dana, for sharing a little bit about your background. Before I go ahead and roll into the questions, I just want to remind everyone who is tuning into the Zoom, if you got on late, if you have any questions at all for Dana, we did send out a link for you to go ahead and fill that out. But if you didn't get to submit your question in time, you can go ahead and send me a chat in Zoom directly to me, Sabrina Greco, and I'll be watching the chat as well and make sure that we get your questions asked to Dana. And then she's also been gracious enough to stick around for a few minutes at the end if you have any personal questions you want to ask her that you didn't feel maybe comfortable asking in front of everyone. But all right, Dana, are you ready to just get started?
I am, and I learned it's the Tasmanian Devil, so thank you for whoever wrote that in. I appreciate you.
Okay, well, first of all, it's so cool for us to be able to interview a UGA grad, MIS, so School of Business, super cool. So whenever you were first starting out fab'rik, you made the decision to go ahead and pursue your dream. Whenever you were first starting out, how many hours were you putting in average day, average week, into just pursuing fab'rik?
Great question. So I talk a lot about this with people as we navigate. Actually, I had 2 calls with two people that I'm mentoring today, and this was our topic. So I kind of talk the talk that, yeah, you just, you find your dream and then you just jump off a cliff and chase it. That is not at all what I believe. I believe that it takes a big leap of faith to say, okay, I'm going to chase it, but be very strategic in how you do it. There is no reason to give up anything secure in your life until you're positive that you have a next step plan to go to. So what I did, I was working at Deloitte. I was working, honestly, it was probably 80 hours a week. I was, taking Sunday night flights out and flying back in Thursday on the red eye. And I started writing a business plan, and I wrote that plan for a year. And it wasn't just like some thoughts on paper. It was a plan that I sent to every person I knew, and I only had one rule for them. Please don't tell me anything positive. I want you to rip it apart and tell me what is broken. What do I not know about this thing? And it starts to develop that thick skin that you're going to need later of, well, this doesn't make any sense. You're like, what do you mean you don't understand what type of clothing I am? It's going to be unique clothing. They're like, that says nothing to me. So you can really start to get to a point that this plan can go in front of you know, whoever you're trying to maybe ask money for. So I did that for a year, and I would say probably 2 to 3 hours a night. I mean, that's how I fell asleep at night, midnight to 2 a.m. Get your sleep. But, you know, this is something that usually takes some sacrifice to do in this season of life. And then the other thing I did, not only in writing a plan, I think it's just as important. I took a job on the weekends for, I think it was like $5 an hour at a boutique. And they're like, I think you're overqualified. Like, I don't understand why you're, and I just wanted to make sure I liked what I was giving up my whole career for. I had a degree that I would use, absolutely, but it was a very big pivot for me. And that advice that I got from someone else was critical, is not only working on your dream on a piece of paper in your house, that you're out there saying, okay, I love doing this. Oops, I don't even like this part, but I'm going to do this part of it. And I would do that, you know, that's where my weekends were spent. So it's worth jumping in now to make sure that you're, you know, on the path to something that you really do want to be doing. Yeah. So yeah, it took me about a year to write the plan, everybody to rip it apart, about 2 months to get rejected by 14 banks. And then the last bank who finally said, sure, we'll give you a $70,000 line of credit. Then we, you know, got open from there. But, and I think that's the other part, is that I would say the working on it is the first step. And then you're like, you think, awesome, now I did it. And that's kind of where the real work begins. So
that's awesome. So you obviously have the background with management information systems, and you're just kind of pursuing your dream of fashion, right? I'm taking us back a little bit to when you're going out trying to get those funds from the banks and everything. How did you go about establishing contacts in the fashion industry to help get the word out about your brand, just even reach out to people and get contacts in the industry? How did you navigate that?
You know, that's where you have to decide, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have to believe in yourself more than anybody else. So anyone is like, well, I'm shy and I don't really like to ask anything of people. And I think it's uncomfortable to, well, then don't lead something. You just can't lead something. I was the shyest person in high school. I walked through the halls like this. I was so shy, but I believed in this so much that I knew I had to. So there wasn't a person that I wasn't eating dinner with, or my dad would say, guess what? I played tennis today with a banker. I'm like, oh, okay, I need his number. Like, I was walking into boutiques and saying, hey, is the owner here? And they're like, no, she's not. I'm like, well, can I talk to you about what sells well? Like, it was and still is. I mean, I'm still that girl, that it's vital that you're going to be your biggest, you know, cheerleader and proponent, and get out there and ask those questions. So it's not going to serve you well if you become an entrepreneur and you don't have a network. Then you will rely on your network. And you know, I'm a big fan of saying, hey, Sabrina, can you help me find somebody that does this, but what can I give you? Like, who do you need? And I will introduce you to it. That's kind of how before I had a huge network, that's how I operated, is, listen, I don't know, is there a favor? Is there anyone I can introduce you to if you can do this for me? And it works out really, really well. And you develop this network you've got favors in waiting with people, but you have to be able to ask it. And now what I call them are bold coffees. If I have a friend of a friend who says, oh my gosh, my friend just wrote this book on how to be an incredible leader, I'm like, can I have their number? And people always take them and they're like, wait, I don't know. Like, well, here's mine. Can you give it to them? And yes, I've never met you, but I will not waste my time when I'm sitting down with you. I have 3 questions I want to ask you, and it's going to make an impact in my life. So I think that part is what makes you kind of stand out from anybody else. If you're scared and nervous, which we all are inside, I'm not saying you can't feel that. We're all terrified of all of that. But that's the definition of courage, is being scared and then doing it anyways.
Right. Yeah, totally. It's definitely a leap of faith. That's what entrepreneurship is, right?
Yep.
So when you were trying to pitch your business to not only the banks, but even just through networking, what were the home run statements or remarks that you wanted to make sure stuck with people about fab'rik's vision and just you as a person, your values?
So I'll start with what I did wrong there for all the other banks. So the banks that all said no because I didn't answer why I was unique. I didn't answer why I was different. Not Oh, because you just don't know me. When you see my boutique, you're going to say, wow, it's so different. That's what I was saying. It's like, instead of just hey, banker, trust me, that they don't operate on trust of someone that's excited about their idea. I needed to carve out my niche in the marketplace. And so the last banker that I went to, I did my whole proposal. He played tennis with my dad. So I was like, of course he's going to give me a line of credit. He looks at me, he's like, I don't understand why you're different than any other boutique. Go home tonight, come back tomorrow, and if you can answer that question. And I sat there like, not only could I not answer for my banker, but I couldn't really even answer it for myself. And you need to be able to answer it, not just think it. You need to be stuck in an elevator and somebody says, hey, why the heck is this so cool? And you can say, oh my gosh, there's a billion boutiques but mine. And what I finally crafted and have stuck with since that day 18 years ago is that you don't have to pay $1 million to look like $1 million. Everything in my store is going to be under $100. And now we have a lot of that. Then there wasn't one store that you're going to, be offered a glass of champagne, and we're going to walk your bags to your car and push your child around in the stroller and put umbrellas and all the stuff that like you pictured in Neiman Marcus only. We're going to do that for free. Everything's going to be under 100, and you're going to feel like this wow customer service you've never felt anywhere else. And he was like, okay, I will risk for that. And it's still a risk. He still wasn't thrilled. He still said he'll take a chance. So I think that piece compiled with the idea of I wrote kind of an exit strategy in my business plan. And while I don't always recommend proposing that out to who you're, getting investment from, you need to know that. You need to know, okay, how does this all play out? Not necessarily if it fails, but what are my options? And what that does for me is it takes away the fear. It takes away the, oh my gosh, what will happen? So either way, I was going to be okay. And, I found a place that would buy the inventory if I didn't want it, and, put in my lease that didn't have to be 5 years, all of those things that you're kind of thinking about at the beginning. So you're not in a frantic place trying to navigate what's next. And then the last one we've already talked about so many times is just sitting with yourself and making sure you believe in yourself. You have to believe in that concept. Nobody can knock you from it, because if you're going to get knocked from it, then you're probably not all the way stable in it. It's just like anything you've done when you're like, I love this so much that you're 100%, and you need to be 100% on the idea. You don't have to have it figured out, but you really do need to believe in it, so that when you get knocked around, and you will, and people tell you it's ridiculous and that you're crazy, that you can kind of stand your ground.
Yeah. So whenever you got the investment, you're ready to start your company, but you can't do it all alone. So how did you go about hiring a strong team that you knew you'd be able to count on?
Great question. Well, another one of those things, one of the coolest things I learned in school and implemented then was the idea of building a team kind of from scratch. So the first 6 months, I didn't have anybody. It was just me. So I basically, the advice I got was to make an org chart and put all the roles that you think your company is going to need someday, and put your name in every one of them until you can hire into those. And so what you're looking for is to find roles that you need and that you're not great at. And so that's kind of what I did, is find the ones that, what are not my strengths, and who do I bring into those roles? And I found out pretty quickly one of my strengths was not being in the store. There was a million things I needed to do. So first person was obviously a store manager, but that wasn't even until 6 months until I actually learned how to run the store to even train this person. But now, fast forward a little bit now, because in the beginning, the advice I would give for the beginning is have your core values down on paper, because anyone you hire has to believe in them. It's not that they have to change their core values. It just means that if their core values are not the same as this little seedling that you're trying to grow, then it's just not good for either of you. And you're going to find a friend, and you're going to find someone's going to introduce you to somebody else that's brilliant, and these aren't going to match. And I haven't seen in all of my years in business it work out despite that. So, one of our core values is wow everyone. It's important to us that every customer leaves and we have wowed them in some way. We've had employees that just are like, I don't get that one. That's just not that important. I don't think I need to slip a necklace in their bag. I think they're going to like to shop here anyways, or write a note or, ask them how the event went. And while we believe that person's a wonderful person, they're just not fab'rik family. So if you know kind of what you're trying to build, you have to know it for yourself, so that everybody that comes through, it's like a litmus test. Ours are dream big, hustle hard, stay inspired, wow everyone, and lead with heart. So if you're like, I'm not, and we've had people like this, they're not like, I'm here to work, I'm not really into the heart part. Like, no problem at all. This just isn't your company. We're going to be serving like crazy while we're on the runways. So the cool part about that is you're not really creating that outside of yourself. It's kind of that's who I was. So it's basically saying, this is who I am. Do you want to be part of who I am? Which is hopefully what my company's going to be.
It's really cool to have like a company where you're saying, yes, this is what we do, this is how we do it, but you have to bring yourself to the table because we're people behind the business too. I love that. We had a question from one of the members. They want to know where the first fab'rik location was and how did you know that you wanted to franchise?
The first location was on West Peachtree Street here in Atlanta, and they tore it down to create a hospital. It was so sad, but it was in the worst location in the world. And we've got to make sure, Sabrina, at some point I talk about what happened on opening day to that store, because it will just blow your mind. But with that being said, I just thought the inside was incredible. I didn't really take into effect that it was on a one-way street, had no parking, dangerous, all of the things that people don't want to come shop. So that was my first store. And honestly, I would love if I got to say, here's my franchising plan, and this is what I knew. I did not want to franchise. I was very much against it. In my mind, it was like McDonald's, and I was actually offended in the beginning when people say, oh, I would love to have a fab'rik. I'm like, well, I don't live in Raleigh. And I made a commitment to my life, when I left Deloitte, that I'm not going to travel. So this is my life, and I'm so sorry. And I told people I'm so sorry for so long, until I realized, wait a second, the idea of franchising is other women like me in other states saying, hey, I want to be a business owner. Why don't we do it together? And I was like, okay, I like that kind of franchising. So I actually wrote my own franchise agreement. I was dating my husband at the time. He's a lawyer, but he's like, I'm not a franchise lawyer. So I just got 1,000,000 franchise agreements and wrote my own franchise agreement the way I wanted to write it. And, obviously very legal and approved, but I learned that just because, you go into a model, you can modify it to work with the business that you want it to be. So it was about, I guess, 3 years in, and we franchised our first store. And I was like, whoa, what I learned kind of through the idea of who you bring on your team, I was bringing in just powerful, leaders from all around who brought in new ideas and fresh energy. And it was like, what an incredible way to grow.
Yeah. I love that. We have some more questions and I promise I won't forget about the opening day of your first location. We'll come back to that. But a lot of people are wondering, in order to get to the point of franchising, right, you've got to do a lot of customer discovery and figuring out, who your customer is. How do you get to know them? Could you talk a little bit about that for us?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the most important thing is to, I started with men's and women's clothing. I was going to be everything to everybody. We had some kids. True Religion jeans were huge at the time. And so we had kids' True Religion jeans just as gifts. And we had everything because we wanted this to be your place that you shopped. Learned quickly, men do not shop in the same frequency as women. So our turns were so different. And everything that we learned in the beginning, we're like, wait, how are we going to do all to everyone? So that was a quick narrow down for me. I think probably 4 years in, we dropped men's and replaced it with our number one selling category, shoes, and profits were dramatically different. I think a lot of the ways I make business decisions now, not in the very beginning, but now, are based off profit, not off heart and emotion. And I wanted to carry men's because I was like, it'd be so fun. Me and my boyfriend could go shopping. And then I realized he doesn't even really want to go shopping with me. Most women were shopping for men's, and you learn the actual flow versus what you think. So when I'm looking at our bottom line, it was very easy for me to say, we are going to replace men's with shoes and go from there. What was the other part of the question?
I'm pretty sure you answered it, just customer customer discovery as a process, and you.
Oh, the other thing we do is we did then and we do now. Now we do it on, SurveyMonkey. Then we did it on little sheets of paper, but we would just say, did we wow you today? And if so, how? Like, so it was a constant, like people would say, do you want me to fill this out? Like, I don't think you've wowed me. And we're like, well, I'm going to wow you now. Like, we just kind of made it be something that was so obvious. And we had a lot, especially in the beginning. And we keep talking about doing them now. We need COVID to end, but we would turn our denim tables like once a week into customer roundtables and have these candlelit dinners in the store and bring out all our new collection and say, like, why are you not buying this? We think this is incredible and you're not buying this, or, what do you want our store hours to be? And just absolutely open that. Once a year now, we send out, in June, we'll send out an email to our entire database, which is pretty huge at this point, and say, how can we become the best boutique that you've ever shopped in? Just give me one reason. And then we go through this long list, consolidate it, rank it, and say, okay, how are we going to make these things happen? I actually learned that from Disney. I was on the Disney cruise with my kids, and I'm just fascinated at their customer service. They know their customer. It's like you turn around and the thing you wish was there. And they basically said, we just ask our customers, what do you want? And we just try to implement it, everyone on that list. So I think just asking, it's pretty simple. There's obviously a lot of data to understand where our customers living, what zip codes, all of those. But I think for your specific niche, when you just talk to your customers, sometimes it's the most powerful piece of it.
Awesome. You mentioned earlier that a big key part of fab'rik is keeping fashion affordable, under $100. How are you able to do that in such a boutique?
Yeah. So the good part now is, being in this business this many years, and vendor relationships have always been critical to me, that, they're going to be working with us with prices because we've scaled so large. And they also know that we're, always going to pay on time and always going to be pleasant to work with. And so those relationships, from day one, I think I learned that in school, but I don't think I understood the impact of that. I mean, I could call pretty much any of my vendors now and ask any favor, and they would pull it off like I would for them. So I think that'll be the most critical part as you're, instead of jumping from better deal to better deal, sticking with your core people that have built you along the way. And they've really been the kind of the crux that's made fab'rik able to keep with the prices that we like, but also there's so many, when you get into production, just hitting the deadlines, they're going to ship us first, and all of the different things that fall into line, not only with just pricing, but they're going to show us, exclusives before anybody else. And you have to earn your way there, but you earn that with your vendors by being reliable, by being good, just by, being somebody that people want to work with throughout the years.
Yeah, I love that.
And I'm obviously not talking about myself. I'm talking about my team and all of fab'rik. We do a lot of training on how important it is. And I think that's, as you grow, that's probably the hardest thing is I love my vendors. I'm so thankful for them, how they've been so good since day one, but a new team member doesn't necessarily know that. So we train on, this is how we actually do a training on, this is how you talk to a vendor. Like, this is who they are to us. This is what they mean to us. And this is how we, honor them. We never, if you're frustrated in any way, that's never going out to them. And it's small things, but I think it's things that during our training, we've learned that not everybody's always aware of that power of the conversation.
Would you say that your knowledge of having to explain to even your new employees, like, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is how we got to this reputation, would you say that is a skill set that you learned from your time at Deloitte, or is it something you just kind of learned along the way is important for a strong business model?
The second, it's funny because I think I learned it at Deloitte, meaning I would go into some companies and the CEO would come into the room and we'd all get a little nervous, and he or she would either, just say, all right, let's get down to business, blah, blah, and just kind of, I don't know, just kind of run into it knowing that there's new people here and almost make us feel like you better catch up, versus the people that would come into a room and just lead with this like gentle, like calmness of, oh, I see we have some new people here. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are and what I expect from you. And I just remember thinking like, wow, that is so powerful. Versus the other one where I'm supposed to try to guess and respect you in an earned way versus like, let me tell you what they would always, two different CEOs or leaders would say, let me tell you, if you want to knock it out of the park, this is how you can do it. And so I try to share that with my team of, hey, it's your second day. If you want to really make me happy and you want to just kill it, this is what I need you to do. Clear expectations, and then leaders repeat, leaders repeat, leaders repeat, leaders repeat. And you start to think, wait, am I being annoying? No, you're just being clear. This is our vision. Every woman to feel beautiful inside and out. Every single woman, one piece of fabric at a time. What do you mean every woman? Every single woman. Well, what about women that can't shop here? Well, we're getting to them. We're building dream boutiques that are free for them. Okay, well, what about 2-year-old women? Well, they've got moms and they're going to grow up and we're going to make them all feel beautiful. So it's the constant repeating of why are we even here? Because as you guys maybe already know, it's exhausting. It's tiring. There's days when you're like, am I even supposed to be doing this? It's so tiring. Maybe I'm just going to go back and get my old job and I'm going to just let somebody else take the reins. It's a thought every entrepreneur has multiple times along their journey. So if you can come back to the why, oh, it's just so, it refreshes every single bit of like, I could do all those other jobs, but I believe this is my purpose and I believe this is my passion. So I'm going to stick here and it's going to matter to this world in some way. So, if you don't have your why, then you're just going to be like, I'm working my butt off for what?
Right. We had a question from one of the members. How do you balance family and personal life while leading a very successful business like fab'rik?
So the answer is I don't balance anything, but I'm really, really good at being all in wherever I am. Right. That's all I can say. Like if, my son came in and just broke his arm playing football out, all the boys were out playing football and I needed to go take him to the hospital, I'd say, hey guys, I've absolutely loved this. I'm so terribly sorry. I got to take this. And I pray for forgiveness. And I hope that, everyone can handle that. And I will make it up to y'all. I'll wow the socks out of you. Go around. Speaking of, they're coming in here. Better not be a broken arm. I just knock on wood. But I think the thing that's, hold on, I'm moving. You guys are coming with me. We're sneaking back in the office. Sorry, guys. See, this is balance. It's running away from your kids when they need you most. No, but I think that question's really important to answer honestly. And I'm going to be honest with you that I haven't always answered it honestly, not on purpose, but I thought as a leader, I was supposed to say a really shiny answer that everyone would go, oh, well, good. That's how you can balance it. And I'm going to try to do that. And then I realized I was taking everyone down a path that was going to end really badly. You'd all be exhausted, feeling like you're losers and you were not accomplishing it. So, 2 years ago, I took a sabbatical from my own company, not really unplanned. It was kind of a, hey, Dana, what's going on with you? Are you okay? Like I was taking quick 5-minute meetings and I'm like, Sabrina, what else do you need? Okay, I need to go. And it was, you didn't want to work for me. I was not leading with heart. I was not myself. I was not inspired. So what I say now is how I balance it because everyone loves that word, how I make it work for myself is I look at my week. I have a Sunday meeting with myself and I look through my entire calendar and I make sure there's margin in there. I used to just book and not margin with work and life. If I have more than, my husband knows, like he loves to go out to dinner with people and I love people too, but he'll book a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then maybe Saturday we can go to Oyster Fest. And I'm like, all right, sweetie, listen, I will be dead if I do all of that stuff. So navigating your social life, knowing that you're going to be tired after Tuesday, and then understanding, okay, do I have enough in the right buckets? I kind of always think about it like my car. I don't know if anyone else but me, but I'll look down sometimes and every light's on and I have like 3 miles and then there's like, what's that red light? And there's a blinking orange one. And like, that's not how we're supposed to operate. So when those lights start to come on in your life and you're feeling, my trigger is like, I just get grouchy. I'm like, what? And my kids are like, sorry, I just was asking for having dinner. Or my team's like, I just wanted to sit down and tell you what a great job you did. Try to logistically look over your schedule and give yourself that margin, and understand I would never be the person that leaves a speech more than once. I'm hoping life doesn't make it that way, but be bold enough to say, hey, I'm so sorry. I think I need to handle this, and know where you need to be. Because I used to think I could be at the playground leading a Q4 strategy call with my company and my kids swinging. And that is so made up. There's no possible way to do that. You can do it, but I'm like, can you put a Band-Aid on my kid? And wait, where was I? And you're not going to be all in. And my whole company's motto for 2020 has been all in, do or die, no matter what we are. So hopefully when I'm talking to you, I remember your name. I remember what you looked like. I remembered our conversation, and then I'll go handle the other things that come up during the day. Keep your notifications off. Every trigger that's pulling you from where you are in that moment. Because what I learned when I was getting this advice from a really, really smart man was, think about the people in your life that you enjoy spending the most time from, or you learn the most from. They're most productive people. It's the people that are like absolutely present when you're there. So it's a little bit of a soapbox, but I've learned that because I literally had to take a sabbatical from my company for almost a year. They took my email address away. They, basically were like, go get the noise out of your head. You're doing way too much and it's not working. So let's restart this and put the things that matter in place. Do not cancel the things that don't need to be canceled, and kind of operate in a different way than, sure, okay, yes, that'll be great. Absolutely. And then you look at your calendar and I can't even have dinner with my husband because I'm so over scheduled. I'm sure you guys can relate.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for taking the time to get personal about that. That's the nitty gritty information that we really want to get from these speaker series is, like, it looks like one thing in the movies and it like seems great on paper, but we're human and this is our dream and might be our baby, but we have limitations and we've got to make boundaries and set boundaries with others.
So well said. I will say to that, when people started saying, oh my God, I would love to be you. And don't get me wrong, I have such a blessed life. It's just intense. There's a lot of stuff happening at all times. So I kind of realized, what am I projecting versus what is my actual real life? Because people would say, have you ever been in a fight with your husband? Like, we've been married 16, like we're in a fight right now. Yes, we've been in a fight. And I think that's the part where, you can make someone or something be what you wish you could be. Then you try to get there and you're like, well, I can't get there. Like, we're just regular people, and we're really grateful for all that I've built and my company and my team and my family, but there's no possible way that it all navigates together without, some intentionality of it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I think people don't think about is, at the beginning, you're filled with a lot of passion and creativity to make your dream happen. But how do you navigate maybe dry spells of creativity and making sure you stay on track for the next season and everything like that?
Yeah. So again, it made it a core value of our company because everyone that happens to everyone. So if you think about like dream big's our first value, everyone's like, yes, the sky's the limit. Then you move into hustle hard and you're like, let's nail it. We have deadlines and we're going to get these stores open and we're going to, create marketing strategies that have bigger and better than before. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. So stay inspired is critical for me. Not only that you stay inspired, but what inspires you. And I think that's what a lot of people don't know. They think it's like, I'm going to go to the beach or the lake for the weekend. Well, guess what? You come back from the lake, you have laundry and you're exhausted and you haven't slept. That's not what inspires people. And I had to do the research for my book because luckily I stay pretty inspired. So when I was trying to teach people, it wasn't making sense because I didn't understand what their thing was. But what I learned about most people, what inspires most people is kind of two different things and a million different versions of it, but either putting good work out into the world when they're like serving other people. It's just strangely, research shows it inspires you. So if you're taking time to stop and help someone out, whether it's serving at a big nonprofit level or simply bringing food to a neighbor, that actually inspires people. It gets your adrenaline flowing and it makes you stop thinking about yourself and give your mind a rest there and go. The other thing that inspires people is learning new things. It's obviously got to be something you're interested in, but if you're love cooking, learning new cooking, what inspires me is just, new books and cool people. I love sitting down. I love coffee, so that helps. I sit down with a cup of coffee with someone that I've stalked on Facebook or Instagram. I mean, that's how I've met most of my close friends and mentors. Never knew them a day in my life. And I'm like, hey, I'm Dana. This sounds crazy, but would you possibly have coffee with me? And that's it's all of my mentors. I mean, you can ask literally all of them, including my husband. That's how I met my husband, y'all. Like, he was out in a bar, and was the day I started fab'rik or went and got the business plan. So I was going to open in a year. So went downtown and got incorporated and went out to celebrate. And there's 10 guys, lawyers, all dressed in like the same white shirt, which was hard for me because I was in fashion. Well, I'd been a day in fashion. And I looked over and I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, that's my husband. And they're like, Dana, no. And look, this dress, I was wearing this dress right here. Can y'all see it?
Yes, that's so cool.
Of course, it stays on a mannequin in my office, but I was wearing that dress and walked over and said, I know this is crazy, but I'm going to marry you. And he was like, he's logical. He's like, well, should we probably talk or get to know each other before we get married? But see, 16, 17 years later, he fell for it. But the bold part of, hey, I want to learn new things. I want to surround myself with people that are doing cool things. I have a motto. I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. And when there's someone else going, hey, Sabrina, you should look at it this way. Have you ever thought about that? Then you're like, I'm not stuck anymore. I'm not uninspired. I'm going to stop watching maybe these Netflix shows or listen to these podcasts and listen to this other one that these friends are saying, let's up your game.
I love that. Everything's a learning experience and a combination of taking leaps of faith. So if you don't mind, will you take us back to your first opening day of your first store of fab'rik and give us a little bit of an inside look at what that was like for you?
Of course. So again, this was a story I told for probably 10 years that no one really cared about until I told the second part of it, but I never thought the second part mattered. So as I've talked about today, spent a year, working on this business plan, not sleeping, just kind of like living off adrenaline and coffee and just like so excited about this store. Get it open, had my $70,000 line, spent it to, get the store ready and inventory. Opening night happens. Unbelievable dream come true. Lines out the place. We have a huge fashion show. I went to UGA. Went to Roswell High School. I'm from Atlanta. The whole world was there. It was perfect. It was like, I've nailed it. This is as good as it gets. And here we go. People were buying stuff. It was like the world's best feeling. And I think it's important just to soak up those feelings. Little wins, hold on to them because, I think you're always as an entrepreneur waiting for the next thing. So I soaked that in. It's probably 2 a.m. We close up everything. We go home. So the next morning is my first real day open. And I'm like, heck yeah, let's, go in and we're gonna have our first kind of real customer. So I drive in, got my chai latte. And as I'm driving in, I realized like the whole driveway has broken glass everywhere. And I'm looking into my store and the windows are out and like broken glass. And it's like when you go into that like moment where it's numb, like it can't be because you just put your whole life, you could never do it again, into this place. So I pull in the back, walk into the back of my store, which again was glass. So I just kind of walk through. Everything was gone. And I'm not saying inventory. Inventory was gone, but they took the register. They took the champagne out of the refrigerator from the party the night before. They took the shoes. They took the stereo system. They took that down. They left mannequins and hangers. That's it. Nothing. Everything else was gone. And there was like, I guess how they broke in, there was glass and like blood all over the floor. And sitting there like this, 28-year-old girl by myself, like who cleans this up? Like, what the heck? This was not in my business plan. Like, are you kidding me? And my whole like heart was just like, maybe I wasn't supposed to do this. It was that moment where I'm like, I was sure last night that it could not have been more of an answered prayer. And here I am now, this absolutely might be the wrong path for me because I don't have any more money. Come to find out, I had set the alarm incorrectly, so I was not getting any insurance money. So I'm sitting there on a Sunday going, supposed to be open for business, and I have not a single thing. Like we used to have to write receipts on these pads. They took those because they had credit card numbers in it. It was terrible. So all that to say, picked up my phone and I called my dad, who's, an entrepreneur. He has an artist. He has a studio. And I'm like, Dad, guess what happened? Blah, blah, blah. What do I do? And he says, welcome to your own business, sweetie. You're a true entrepreneur now. And I'm like, what? Like, this is how I have to get there? He's like, well, you're not necessarily a true entrepreneur yet. What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I'm going to do it all again. He's like, all right, now you're a true entrepreneur. Like, it was just too easy the first time. Like, I had to see, was I going to fight for it? And I will say a lot of our marketing strategy came from simply the idea that from that day on, I called, and this is why I think this story is so powerful. I called all of those vendors back that I didn't know. Now I know so well. But I said, hey, this is Dana from fab'rik. I'm that girl that you just sent all the inventory to. And they're like, oh, did you sell it? I'm like, well, no, it's all stolen. Could you possibly resend it? And I'm going to sell it again, but I don't have any money. And they're like, well, we need money. I'm like, will you give me 30 days and I will promise you I'll sell this and I will pay you back. So literally every single one of them said yes. And it was just a different mission. Instead of like, yay, I'm open, I turned into like that traffic on that one-way street in front of my store. I was bringing stuff out to people's car, grabbing their credit card, like running it. It changed everything to, hold on, if this is going to succeed, it's going to be me and I've got to do it again. So yeah, that's the story that I used to just say. And then we opened and it was such a great night, and then forgot the part about everything I did in a year, I'm going to have to do in 2 days.
That's crazy. And here you are now, lots of locations all over the nation.
Yeah.
Well, Dana, I'm just going to wrap it up with one more closing question, which you've kind of already touched on, but if you don't mind summing it up again, what advice do you have for college students who have a passion for entrepreneurship, but don't know exactly how or when to get started on making that dream a reality?
So when is tonight? It's tonight. And that doesn't mean you quit a job or you stop talking to your boyfriend or girlfriend. And it just means you do one thing each week towards the direction. I would say each day. I'd like to say each day, but I'm going to give you a week. The pick a date is so important to me. On August 1st, that night I met my husband. I told him that night, I said, in 1 year from today, on August 1st, I'm going to open my first store. And he was like, whoa, good luck with that. And I opened that year, that date of that big break-in was the next date. And everyone I mentor, and that mentors me, that accountability piece to something. And remember, I'm not saying you have to start your thing. Just do something in that direction. Make one phone call to have a coffee. Because what I hope for everybody is that you're going to filter out what you don't want so that it's crystal clear. And the only way you can do that is getting out there and figuring it out. You can learn a lot in books. You can research the heck out of stuff. But talking to someone, there's a movie called The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I watch it like every week, and my kids are like, Mom, we know what happens. But the part where Will Smith comes down and there's, a car, this amazing, and I never know if it's a Ferrari or I don't know cars, total not car knower, but it's an incredible car. And he waits for the guy to come out and he says, what do you do and how do you do it? And that is what I did. It's, if there's someone out there doing what you want to be doing, just tell me, what do you do and how do you do it? And they're going to start asking you questions that whittle it down, and they'll probably send you, you need to probably talk to my friend. That is what I would say is honestly a first step. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the location. Don't worry about the data mining process that's going to have to be on the back end. All of that is important, but you just want to get closer and closer to the real people that are doing it so they can start saying, hey, Natalie, don't waste your time here. Or did you know when you really get into it, it's not like this at all. Everyone wants to be a buyer. being a buyer means you've got to love math. Like that's all it is. And most people don't know that. So get closer so that it's crystal clear. So in a month from today, you wake up and go, man, I'm so much closer to what I was even pursuing to begin with.
Thank you so much, Dana. I think Natalie has a closing statement for you, Natalie.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you so much, Dana, for speaking, and thank you, everyone, for attending. If you guys have something that you want to ask one-on-one, Dana will be on the call for the next 5 or 10 minutes if there's something you guys just really want to ask her one-on-one. But thank you all for attending.
Thanks, you guys.
Hope you all learned something from this. I know I did. I'm like taking notes throughout the whole thing.
Thanks, Natalie and Sabrina.
People are thanking me in the comments as well.
Thank you, Ansley and Gianna.
Dana, it's not a question, but I'm a KD here at UGA.
You are?
Yes, ma'am. And we have a bunch of, we had a few KDs hop on throughout this. They just wanted to hear your story. It's really cool to get to know an entrepreneur, not only from UGA, but from Greek life.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Do you guys still have the apartments?
Yes, we do.
I loved that. Oh, that's so good. So did you guys just finish, did you do recruitment and everything?
We did, yes. It was very different this year, but we were able to do it virtually, so it was nice.
Okay, good.
We had a question in the chat. Someone wanted to know if they're interested in getting to reach out to you, should they email?
Yeah, I can type my email in here, or do you have my email you want to send out, or do you just want me to type it in here?
You can type it in if you want.
Yeah, whatever
okay.
you're more
comfortable. Do both.
Yasmin, if you have a question, you can go ahead and unmute yourself to ask.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to, talk to us and everything. I want to say that this is my first talk. And it was super, super, super inspiring. I loved how you were very vulnerable, and you didn't, draw out entrepreneurship to be all a beautiful garden and things just blossom and work out. You were very honest about it. You were hey, look, it there are hardships along the way. There's this, that, and the other, pursuing a full-time job, 80-hour weeks, staying up all night to, dedicate a few hours of your day, especially with I want to say consulting firms like Deloitte. I know a lot of people at UGA say that once they get into the working life, they don't have they don't get to dedicate 38 minutes towards their lunch break. So to know that you're still putting in that time towards your dreams is truly, truly inspiring. And I mean, I'm kind of trying to work on the whole networking thing, and it's very, very difficult to do that when, you don't get to, see the speakers in person or see any of your classmates in person. And so I was wondering if I could get your number, or if you're on LinkedIn, if we could talk, because I have so many questions, but I know you've had a long day, and I'd rather probably dedicate it to
Absolutely.
Another time if you're okay with that.
I would be happy to. I put my email in there. I'm not great at email, but my assistant is. So what she'll do is I'll send it to my assistant, and she'll set up a time for us to chat.
Perfect. Okay. Do you have a preference on days or anything?
Nope. So shoot me an email and say, I want to talk, I want to Zoom, I want to call, whatever you want. And then I will make it work. I never really know my calendar each day.
I understand.
So yeah, any day, but whatever day works for you, we'll make it happen.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And I do want to share the idea of it being challenging to figure out the networking part. But I do think LinkedIn, and I do think, all of those, when you do what I would call stalker, we joke that my company's let me guess, Dana Metz, heard some great, amazing speaker, and now she's trying to talk to him. Yes, I do. But I think the idea of saying what you want when you do, because if I have in Instagrams, someone's I'd love to have coffee, that doesn't inspire me. But hey, Dana, I'm leading a team of 20 women, and I'm trying to figure out how we can get a free dream boutique in a safe house. Can you help? I'm I'm all in. So kind of put out what your ask is, when you're asking someone, because a lot of people, believe it or not, just want to help. What they don't want to do is wonder, what's the coffee about? You know what I'm saying? So just kind of figure out how you can be bold in those ways of, hey, Dana, I really just, this is what I need from you, or whoever the stranger is, or I know somebody that knows you, and I know this is probably a long shot, but any chance you could help me? I'm an entrepreneur that's kind of stuck, or whatever your thing is. Cause I 100% respond to any of those. I don't always respond to, hey, let me know if you can have coffee. Cause I'm kind of like, are you trying to sell me something, or like who are you? So that's advice I would give. And then the other thing I would quickly say to what you shared in the beginning of kind of being vulnerable, I have 4 children, and nobody told me when you had a kid that it's so hard. Everyone's like, it's bliss. And I'm like, oh my God, if this is bliss, like I haven't slept in like a month, like I'm missing the bliss part. Like I love them so much, but like the 3 boys, like they just fight like little werewolves all day. And like, what is going on here? Like,
I love
not
that.
at all bliss, but is under the chaos, is it everything I've ever wanted? Absolutely. So I think that's the why part of like, after I get off this call, I'm going to go have dinner with my family, and then I will be working on my Black Friday marketing plan all night long, happy as heck to do it. So it's neat to have something that still energizes you.
Yeah, definitely. No, I know that there's like a long line of people who, again, want to talk to you. And I've been trying to like really, again, like you said a lot of things where I was kind of like, oh dang, like I didn't think of this part, or like she's got a point, like now I need to like sit there and think of this and this, that, and the other. So I think that after like revising them again, kind of like what the banker told you, like, okay, really figure out your purpose, really figure out that after, I don't want to say like the honeymoon phase of like the entrepreneurship part fades away, but like honestly, after that high goes away, what's really going to resonate? And I'm like, okay, I need to think about this so that next time if she asks me these questions, I'll have an answer.
Yep. And that's why accountability is so good, because in your head, you don't have to answer to yourself. So when, if you got on this call again and like, okay, so it's been 2 weeks, what did you do? And you're like, kind of nothing. Accountability just rocks, because it's embarrassing and it forces you to do the thing that you just might not do.
Yeah.
Great point.
Definitely.
Okay. Well,
so
I look
much.
forward to chatting with you. So email me.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you, Dana. I'm going to go ahead and end the Zoom call, but thank you so much for giving us your time and letting us learn from you. And that was some great networking advice, because that's something we all know we need to do, but kind of struggle with sometimes.
Yep. You can either be embarrassed that someone doesn't write back, or you can just not have your dream ever take flight. So which one you want to pick there? Take a little bit of,
right.
So go for it. All right.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
everyone who attended.
AOT, Dana.